Welcome back, friends. Black Magic Sorcerer here with another video, and today I'm going to be discussing what it was like for me to go through the moon sphere of the Tree of Weird. Weird, I don't know exactly how it's pronounced, but for those of you that don't know, this tree is basically something used by the Order of Nine Angles. It is very similar to the Tree of Life or Qliphoth, but with different spirits and whole different situation, really. These are dark gods that have nothing to do with the Goetia or really anything else. These are very ancient, from what I can feel, very ancient spirits, and very powerful as well. So my experience was this. Basically, there was a week-long prep, and me and Tiara, Princess of Wands, otherwise known as Carrie from her channel, my mentor and good friend who's been helping me over the last couple of years with all my occult endeavors, advice-wise and everything. And we both did it together. Now, she has experience, I don't. And when it comes to the Order of Nine Angles, it's something that's actually relatively new to me. So it's actually relatively exciting as well. So I used my Necronomicon tarot deck with the intention of doing a septenniary spread, and I did lay some cards down for that, but when I went back to my deck, I did see that my deck had some cards that were flipped up, and I went ahead and used those cards, and they seemed to resonate with me a lot more than the cards I laid down for the septenniary. So in my last video, I was explaining the definition of those cards. These cards are pretty cool. This particular deck is got a lot of really cool art. I mean, it's cartoony, but it's still cool. It's, I'll give you an example of some of these cards. I can't remember if I reviewed this deck. I think I might have a long time ago. But I like tarot decks that are similar to Rider-Waite in their depictions, because I hate when you're looking at a tarot card and you don't know what the fuck card that is, and you're like, what is that? Okay, it says Ten of Wands, but if it didn't say Ten of Wands and there's nothing about wands on it, then how do you know? So I like the fact that the cards are labeled. And as I look at some of the depictions, for example, this card, the Moon card, is kind of funny because it has two different dogs. One's ferocious, one looks tame. Kind of looks like a Labrador Retriever and a, I guess for lack of a better term, really pissed off Rottweiler or a Pit Bull. It doesn't matter, but I think that's a really unique depiction of this moon sphere. And as I look at this moon sphere card, I think it's really cool because it's showing a plane of grass, and then in the background you can see a city that's captured in the moonlight. Very faint. You can see that there. That, I believe, is their depiction of the moon sphere for this deck. So anyway, what's it like to go through the moon sphere of the tree? So upon my initiation, one of the first things I wanted to make sure I did was thoroughly document everything, because as a magician or someone that's into magic, it's very easy to forget, especially if you're under the influence of something at the time, or you're just not organized in the way you're doing something. Sometimes I'll do magic on a whim and I'll forget that I did it, and that seems to be the best magic, the most manifested, easy to manifest type of magic. So anyway, I went into my meditative state. I focused upon the tarot card, the Moon, and I just sort of let myself imagine a gate, and this gate I had a picture of. So I went through this gate with my astral body and started to enter a plane in my imagination that looked very similar to something out of Lord of the Rings. It was a lot like that scene in Lord of the Rings where they go to visit the witch, and they all have really weird dreams because of the witch's influence, and they're kind of in a dreamy state. in a misty forest. That's kind of what it was like. And what was really cool is I projected Carrie into my vision, and it was as if she was with me. And in my vision, we were both wearing very specific brown robes. We had staves, and at one point we were on a canoe with these other people that were going through a lake that was enshrouded in the moonlight. And there was a lot of people on this boat, and there was a rhythm of every time the oars would pull back, it was like a rhythm, like a doo, doo. You could hear like someone keeping a beat so that the oars, the paddles, would stay in sync with everyone else that's using the paddles. It was kind of weird that I could pick up on the sound of that person that sounded like they were playing a drum as they rowed this boat. So I'm in the boat. I feel Carrie with me. We're wearing masks, so all I could see was the bottom portion of her mouth, and she has a pretty unique mouth. She kind of has a little, when she closes her mouth, it's sort of like a cute little underbite. I would just describe it. Her teeth are a certain way where I could tell it was her, and I could tell just by her energy it was, but it was cool that I had that vision of her where I could physically see her in my mind. So after the canoe adventure, it would seem that we were put on a path that led to somewhere where these people wearing black robes that were highlighted with white moonlight color, very eclectic looking uniforms, I guess you would call them robes, and they all started to walk in a circle, and this circle moved faster and faster, and it started to turn into a geometrical shape. And the impression I was getting was like, welcome to the family. Welcome to the spiritual path of the Order of Nine Angles. And I don't know how else to say it, but it felt to me like an introduction to new energies. I was invoking Noctilius just to bring one of the spirits closer from this tree. And I did speak to and ask Noctilius to, open the path for me and open me so that I can experience this changing energy. So, as Carrie said, the point of the moon energy is to shed light on things that you want to maybe get rid of, or to reveal the darker energies within yourself. Our instincts are very often shut off and cut off because we live mundane lives. If you live in the city and you have a desk job, the odds of you going out and shooting a rabbit or killing a deer with a rifle or a bow and arrow is just not going to happen. Now, there is some terrain around, but I have to drive to it, and it's desert terrain. So there's kind of some places I could go to do magic. Problem is, there's always a bunch of assholes out there where I live. You live in California, and it's so overpopulated that you'll be out there in the fucking middle of the woods and some bastard on a ATV or a motorcycle come ripping through fucking your shit up. So unless you're going to go out in the middle of the night with a flashlight, and I don't know, it's not worth it. My backyard and my temple seemed to work well. I did go out after the ritual into the moonlight, and I sat there for a while, and I kept envisioning myself absorbing particles of moon dust until my entire being was basically one glowing moon ball, and then that disintegrated into, like, I disintegrated and I became basically moonlight. And I explored, looked around the sphere, and it was just more of, I was hoping to see more characters, but it was funny that I was introduced to a group of characters. They were human, but they also seemed more like spirits, not so much that they were humans in the moon sphere hanging out. They were like a very particular group of spirits. So I don't know what that meant, but their uniform was very detailed. So entering the sphere, I pictured the gate. I went through the gate, and I kept picturing myself going through the gate, because I was told You want to make sure that you don't stay stuck in the moon sphere, because if you do, you'll be kind of fucked up afterwards. So I definitely concentrated on making sure that I reintegrated back with my body and let that energy come back over me and made sure that I was me again. And then went outside, looked at the moonlight, completed the ritual. It wasn't as intense as I thought it would be. And what made it intense, or I guess you could say surprised me in its intensity, was not so much the ritual, but the preparation. This is why rituals like the Abramelin and the Key of Solomon and the Lesser Key are also fascinating to magicians, because these are basically total self-absorbed systems. And I'm trying to move away from the Judeo-Christian magic systems, just because even though I do like the archangels, I really want to go deeper into what is my dark side. So as I was saying before, these latent energies, these dark energies that lay dormant in us almost our whole life, until you get into a situation where you have to invoke that part of you that is a demonic bastard to whatever. So for example, let's say you've never been in a fight, and then someone puts a gun up to you and says, give me your wallet. In that moment, you're either going to just freeze and give them your wallet, or you're going to go into fight mode and you're going to do something about it. And if you've lived a somewhat violent life and been in enough fights, you know that when you go into fight mode, there's a part of your brain that actually clicks on. It's just like a survival mode. If you've ever been chased by an animal, like a wild dog, or been in extreme danger where some part of you had to come out, it had to be brought forward and put in front for you to get out of that situation. And what it is we don't often enough have people or situations challenging us in our modern times to really put ourselves to the test. It probably is a good idea to go into the wilderness for 3 days and fast and see if you can survive out there with nothing but your pocket knife or whatever. And the point of this ritual was, in the preparation, was for me sleep deprivation. Now, I'm almost always somewhat sleep deprived, but this was different. So what I did was, I started on day one, I started cutting back the hours. So if I normally slept 7 or 8 hours, I would sleep 6, then 5, then 4. Then I was down to 3. And then on the last night, the night before, I barely slept. So I did this ritual on almost no sleep. But I feel like somehow something was missing. So, I incensed the room. I tried to really focus just on moon energy, moon qualities, all that. But when I let myself go and just kind of experience it, that's when I started to have the visions, and that week-long preparation of thinking about the moon and invoking Noctilius and all of that, I think really brought my energies more forward. And after the ritual on the following day, because I was so tired, when I woke up, I felt high. I felt this bizarre kind of foggy-headed, almost like you had smoked some really serious weed and it just hit you where you're like, ugh. That's how I felt, but not under the influence of anything. I just woke up feeling fucked up, like I was high off of the energy or something. So that was my experience in a nutshell. I think that these spheres are cool because of the preparation. I think the ritual itself is almost anticlimactic, because it's really a meditation, and it's really just you going into yourself and looking at yourself honestly. And the way that you can communicate with the sphere is obviously by the tarot cards. So the point of the septenary spread is obviously to let that moon spirit speak to you through the tarot, so that you can see what the moon spirit has in store for you. But in my case, I tried to make it more of a physical. I really wanted to go to the fucking sphere. I wanted to experience it, see it, feel it, absorb it, have it bring those energies out of me. And as the days pass by and I pay attention more to my dreams, I can see that there's something there happening, but it's really beneath the radar. It's not like a big explosive change within me, but there's something there. there's something there now that I feel has been unlocked. And that's about as close as I can get to explaining what it was like. I've actually only ever experienced the Qliphoth and the Tree of Life a little bit, but I've never got into going through all the spears or did the entire trees. I more or less just invoke the angels of said spears and use them for a ritual. But I do recommend you get the Necronomicon Tarot deck before it goes out of print, because the cards are kind of mediocre. They're not exactly super high quality, but it is a rare deck. The back side of the card is kind of cool. Snake. Then speaking of snakes, I just acquired a snake as a pet. So that's a whole new adventure for me. I got a rosy boa snake. I'm going to make a video about the snake. You know, magic is... Snakes are extremely coveted in magic. So I think he's lucky. He's a lucky charm to have around. So I'll be introducing Mr. Snake to you guys. And maybe if you guys want, think of a name for my snake. I'd like you guys to name him. If I name him something, it's just going to be named after some demon or something weird. But maybe you guys could think of a name for a snake. What's a good name for a pet snake? You know? So anyway, I hope that this satisfied any curiosities about what I'm doing here. My intention is to, hopefully, me and Carrie do the entire tree. And obviously the preparation is in depth and it takes a while. It's a week-long preparation of deprivation of no food, no sleep, or as little as possible. And I think we both struggled with that. I think, you know, she admitted that it was tough, and it is supposed to be tough. It's not supposed to be easy. I did cheat and used caffeine because I have a very physical job, and without it, I can't function. I'm 100% addicted to caffeine. And it's one of those things that I wish I could wean myself off of, but I like stuff that gives you energy. I'm not real into stuff that makes you feel down. And if I need to feel down or I need to unwind, obviously that's where the smoking might come into play. And in this ritual, I definitely had to incorporate that into it, because for me to go into a really deep meditative state and not have my mind on, which is what you need to physically turn off to have a spiritual experience, you have to turn that analytical part of your mind off, and you have to simply experience the spheres or the spirit or whatever it is you're doing. And that's very difficult to do because our minds don't shut off. They just go 24/7. Whatever happened at work, you're thinking about it. Whatever happened, a conversation you had, some bullshit that's worrying you. The mind never stops. So that is where I think a shortcut to that would be using something like marijuana or hallucinogenics. Like mushrooms might be kind of a cool thing. When I took the mushrooms recently and had an experience, I definitely saw a lot of geometrical shapes that were reminding me a lot of this tree. So I'm starting to think that one of my visions on the shrooms was a premonition vision of this tree, because I remember seeing a cement slab with these lines in it, so to speak, in my vision. And it was the most powerful vision I've ever had. So I feel like I'm on the right track. Thank you so much, Carrie. And please visit her site at Tiara, Princess of Wands. She's been there for me for the last couple of years. It really helped me out. I really feel that if you have a serious problem that needs to be solved with magic, I recommend Carrie's service, because what she's done for me has completely changed my life. And I know she's humble enough where she probably doesn't want to hear that, but it's true. She's a very rare, very kind, and very beautiful person. So I'm very proud to have her as a friend and to be a part of this initiation with her. So thank you again. Thank you for the subscriptions. Thank you for listening. And please comment about your ideas for snake names. Dark blessings.